It's good for us to reflect today that now in 2007, our troops have not left Korea. We have a minimum of 30,000 troops in South Korea today. Our troops have been there since 1950. 57 years. Can you imagine the payroll for 57 years of troops in South Korea? The Koreans, however, want to reunify. You remember when Germany was in two parts? Many people saying, oh, it's impossible. Germany can never come together again. It came together. The same is true of Korea. The Koreans are saying we want to reunite. We want to have North and South Korea together, one language, one culture, one people who have been divided too long. And they recently put in rail service between the two parts of Korea. They want to unite. However, our people from the U.S. side are still maintaining the hostility, still maintaining the 30,000 troops. And it may surprise you to hear that today our own President Bush is saying, you know, we may have our troops in Iraq for 30 years, for 40 years, just as we've had them in Korea. What an incredibly horrible statement. We must not have our troops in Iraq. Why? Our people want peace. They do not want war. But the leaders are not paying attention to them. The leaders are paying attention to the military, industrial, prison, gun, congressional complex, which does not include the will of the people of the United States. We're hearing echoes today, echoes every day of Vietnam. Our leaders are saying what our leaders said as we lost the war in Vietnam. They were saying in Vietnam, we're not going to cut and run. We're going to stay here and win. General Westmoreland said, I just need 750,000 troops and we'll win. We lost. Why? Because you don't impose a foreign culture on a people who already have a culture. Do you know how many people it takes to win a war if you're with the people? Very few. You know, way back, almost 5 decades ago, Fidel Castro hit the beach in Cuba on a little yacht called the Ranma. There were about 80 people, invaders, Cubans coming in from Mexico to Cuba to take over the country. And they landed, and the dictator Batista knew where they were and came and slaughtered most of them. As far as he knew, Fidel had only 2 living people, a physician and a campesino, that is a farmer. They were on their back in a sugarcane field. So he had 2 weapons. He had 2 rifles, 3 people, and Batista's troops were looking for them, and Fidel said, we're winning. He knew he had 3 troops. Why did he project the fact that he would win? Because he knew the people of Cuba were with him. He was not a foreign invader. He was a Cuban. He was fighting against a dictatorship. The people wanted him to be there, so he won. And he has maintained power there ever since. Contrast that with over 150,000, going on 200,000 troops in Iraq, plus 120,000 contractors. That's private mercenaries added up. And everyone agrees that we are losing in Iraq. Why? We're not Iraqi. We're not the people. We're not the culture. We don't belong there. They don't want us there. The Iraqi government has asked us to leave. The Iraqi people have asked us to leave. I think we should get the message. That country now has been under fire since 1991. I recall Baghdad in 91. I was there expecting the bombs to start falling in January of '91, and ultimately the bombs did fall. Can you imagine 88,000 tons of bombs dropped in the opening attack on Iraq? If someone has a 1-pound bomb and brings that bomb into this station or anywhere else, they are a terrorist. 1-pound bomb. What do you think about 88,000 tons of bombs dropped on civilians? We have to get our act together. We have to begin thinking the damage that we have caused. You know, people don't like their country to be bombed. They don't like their houses to be broken into. They don't want people coming in the middle of the night, breaking down the door and asking questions in English they don't even understand. So in Vietnam, we kept hearing we're going to win. I remember standing in front of the White House in 1965. And at that time, people were very hostile to us for opposing the war in Vietnam. But we gathered there and said that we don't belong there. We shouldn't be there. We support our troops. Many of us had had the uniform on previous. We support them to come home. And while standing in front of the White House, I heard a song. I'd like to share that song with you. Last night I had the strangest dream I ever had before. I dreamed that they had all agreed to put an end to war. They gathered in a mighty room. The room was filled with them. The paper they were signing said, "We'll never fight again." And when the papers all were signed and 1,000,000 copies made, they all knelt down and bowed their heads, and grateful prayers were prayed. And the people in the streets below were dancing round and round, and swords and guns and uniforms were scattered on the ground. Last night I had the strangest dream I ever had before. I dreamed that they had all agreed to put an end to war.